I gripped my coffee mug tightly, staring at my parents across the dining room table of their luxury home. The same table where they told me countless times that I wasn't living up to the family name. And now here they were, asking me to hand over everything I built to my brother, Marcus. "He needs a fresh start, Olivia," my mother said, reaching across to pat my hand. "You know how hard it's been for him since he dropped out of business school." I pulled my hand away, remembering the countless nights I'd spent building my company from the ground up. 5 years ago, I'd started with just $500 and a dream of creating sustainable packaging solutions. Now, GreenPack Industries was worth over $8 million, with contracts across 3 continents. Hard for him. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. Marcus hasn't worked a day in his life. He's been living in your pool house for the past 3 years, spending your money on failed business ventures that never get past the planning stage. My father cleared his throat, straightening his designer tie. "That's exactly why he needs this opportunity. Your brother has vision, Olivia. He just needs the right platform to execute it. And my company is that platform." I let out a bitter laugh. "The company I built while working 2 jobs. The one you both said was a waste of time." The memory of their dismissal still stung. When I first pitched my idea for biodegradable packaging, they laughed. "Stick to your accounting job," Dad had said. "Leave the real business to your brother." But I hadn't listened. Instead, I'd taken my savings, rented a tiny office space, and started cold calling potential clients. For months, I survived on ramen noodles and coffee, working 18-hour days to make my dream a reality. "We were wrong about your little project," Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. "But now that it's successful, think about what Marcus could do with it. He has connections, charm." "He has nothing," I cut her off, "except your money and an overinflated ego." Dad's face darkened. "Watch your tone, young lady. We're trying to help both of you here. Marcus needs direction, and you, well, you've proven your point. Isn't that enough?" "Proven my point?" I stared at him, realizing that in their eyes, my success was just another phase, something to get out of my system before falling in line with their expectations. "The board meeting is next week," Dad continued, sliding a folder across the table. "We've already spoken to Marcus about taking over as CEO. All we need is your signature." My hands shook as I opened the folder. Inside were transfer papers already drawn up and waiting for my signature. They planned this, probably for months. While I was busy expanding the company, meeting with international clients, and developing new product lines, they were plotting to hand everything over to my unemployed brother. "This is insane," I said, closing the folder. "You can't seriously expect me to sign over my company to someone who couldn't even finish college." "College isn't everything," Mom sniffed. "Your brother has natural business instincts. He just needs a chance to prove himself." Like the chance he had with Dad's investment firm. The one where he lost $500,000 in bad trades. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Or maybe like his cryptocurrency venture that turned out to be a pyramid scheme. "Those were learning experiences," Dad defended. "Marcus has grown since then." I looked around their elegant dining room, taking in the expensive art on the walls, the crystal chandelier, the views of their manicured garden through floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything about this house screamed old money and privilege. The same privilege that had allowed Marcus to fail upward his entire life while I fought for every opportunity. "I'm not signing anything," I said firmly. "GreenPack is mine. I built it from nothing, without your help or your connections." Mom's face crumpled into the familiar expression she used when she wasn't getting her way. "You're being selfish, Olivia. Think about your brother's future." "What about my future?" I shot back. "What about the futures of my employees, the people who've worked just as hard as I have to make this company successful?" "They'll be well taken care of," Dad assured me. "Marcus has some excellent ideas for restructuring." "Restructuring?" My blood ran cold. "You mean firing my team and replacing them with his friends from the country club?" The guilty look they exchanged told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just about giving Marcus a chance. They wanted to transform my company into another playground for their social circle, another way to maintain their image of family success. "Marcus has connections," Dad explained patiently, like he was talking to a child. "People who could take GreenPack to the next level. You've done well with the environmental angle, but it's time to think bigger." I almost laughed at the irony. The environmental angle he dismissed so casually had revolutionized packaging in 3 industries. We'd won awards for innovation, been featured in major business magazines, and most importantly, made a real difference in reducing plastic waste. I'm leaving now, I said, picking up my purse. And if either of you tries to pressure me about this again, You'll what? Dad's voice turned sharp. Remember who you're talking to, Olivia. We're your parents and we want what's best for this family. No, I replied, meeting his gaze. You want what's best for Marcus. You always have. As I walked to my car, my mother's voice followed me. Think about it, dear. Family should come first. Family. The word echoed in my head as I drove away from their house. They'd never treated me like family when I was struggling, working multiple jobs to fund my dream. Never offered support when I was sleeping on a futon in my office, too exhausted to drive home. Never believed in me until my success became something they could use for Marcus's benefit. Sitting at a red light, I pulled out my phone and made a call I should have made years ago. Sarah, it's Olivia. Remember that conversation we had about corporate restructuring? I think it's time. My lawyer's voice was calm but alert. Are they making a move? They want me to sign over the company to Marcus. They've already drawn up the papers. Those idiots. Sarah had known my family for years, had watched their pattern of favoring Marcus while dismissing my achievements. Don't worry, we've been prepared for something like this. Come to my office first thing tomorrow, and Olivia, don't sign anything. I won't, I promised, already feeling more centered. But Sarah, make it hurt. I want them to remember what happens when they underestimate me. As I ended the call, a weight lifted from my shoulders. For years, I tried to prove myself to my parents, to show them that my way could be successful too. But now I realized that their approval had never been about my achievements. It had always been about control. Well, they were about to learn that they weren't the only ones who knew how to play hardball. I built GreenPack from nothing, and I'd fight like hell to protect it, not just from Marcus, but from anyone who threatened what we stood for. Tomorrow would be interesting, very interesting indeed. Sarah's office felt like a war room the next morning. Documents were spread across her mahogany desk as she outlined our strategy, her normally perfect blonde hair slightly disheveled from hours of preparation. Your parents made 3 critical mistakes, she said, highlighting sections of the company bylaws. First, they assumed you wouldn't fight back. Second, they thought their social connections would intimidate you. And third, she smiled, a predatory gleam in her eyes. They forgot who actually owns the patents. I leaned forward, intrigued. The biodegradable polymer formulas? Exactly. GreenPack's success isn't just about the company, it's about your innovations. Innovations that are patented in your name, not the company's. A plan started forming in my mind. So even if they somehow forced a takeover, they'd have a company without its core technology. Sarah nodded. But we're not going to let it get that far. I've already filed for an emergency board meeting. Your parents might have spoken to Marcus about making him CEO, but they don't have the authority to make that decision. Just then, my phone buzzed. Marcus. I showed the screen to Sarah, who nodded. Put it on speaker. Hey sis, his voice oozed fake cheerfulness. Mom and Dad told me about their proposal. I think it's a great opportunity for us to work together. I caught Sarah rolling her eyes. There is no us, Marcus, and there won't be any takeover. Don't be difficult, Olivia. You know I've always had a knack for business. With my connections and whatever it is you do with plastic, we could really take things to the next level. My whatever. I couldn't help but laugh. You mean the revolutionary biodegradable packaging technology that's made GreenPack an industry leader? The same technology you called a hippie pipe dream 3 years ago. There was a pause, then his voice turned cold. Listen, this is happening whether you like it or not. Dad's already talked to his friends on the board. You can either play nice and keep a position in the company, or make things difficult and find yourself out completely. Sarah was already taking notes, documenting his threats. I kept my voice steady. Thanks for the warning, Marcus. Good luck with your hostile takeover. I hung up before he could respond. Sarah looked up from her notepad, grinning. Well, that was helpful. Documented threats and an admission of conspiracy to take over the company. Want to really ruin their day. She pulled out another document, this one bearing the seal of the patent office. I did some digging last night. Your latest polymer formula, The one that makes plastic completely biodegradable in 30 days. Major companies are already expressing interest in licensing it, including Palmer Industries, I said, remembering the meeting I'd had last week. They offered $8 million for exclusive rights. Which you won personally, Sarah emphasized. Not Greenpack. You were smart to patent it under your own name. I smiled, remembering how my father had mocked my paranoid insistence on keeping the patents separate from the company. Always have a backup plan, I quoted, echoing his own words back at him. Well, your backup plan just became our nuclear option. If they try to force you out, you can walk away with the technology that makes Greenpack valuable. They'll be left with nothing but an empty shell and some fancy letterhead. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email from my father. The subject line read final warning. Inside was a thinly veiled threat about family loyalty and consequences of defiance. They still think they're dealing with the scared little girl who used to beg for their approval, I said, deleting the email. Time to show them who I've become. Sarah started gathering the documents into her briefcase. The emergency board meeting is set for tomorrow morning. Your parents will try to stack it with their allies, but they don't realize how many board members actually respect what you've built. They never bothered to learn about my business, I agreed. Too busy planning Marcus's next failed venture. Speaking of Marcus, Sarah paused. He's been busy this morning. 3 calls to major shareholders, trying to convince them you're having a mental breakdown and need to be removed for the company's sake. My blood boiled, but I kept my composure. Any takers? Better. Sarah's smile widened. 2 of them called me immediately to report his behavior. Turns out, trying to smear the CEO who turned their investments into gold doesn't sit well with shareholders. As we finished our meeting, my executive assistant knocked on the door. Ms. Bennett, there's something you need to see. She handed me her tablet, open to our company's internal messaging system. Marcus had somehow gained access and was sending messages to all employees, introducing himself as the incoming CEO and outlining his plans for necessary restructuring. He's trying to create panic, Sarah observed. Make the employees nervous about their jobs so they'll support his takeover. I thought about my team, the people who believed in my vision when it was nothing but an idea, who'd worked late nights and weekends to help build Greenpack into what it was today. The idea of Marcus swooping in and destroying everything we'd built made my chest tight with anger. Jessica, I turned to my assistant, call an all-hands meeting. Now, 20 minutes later, I stood in our main conference room, facing the anxious faces of my employees. Many had their phones out, showing each other Marcus's messages. By now, you've all received communication from Marcus Bennett, claiming he's taking over as CEO. I began, my voice clear and firm. I want to be absolutely transparent with you about what's happening. I explained the situation, my parents' attempt to force me out, Marcus's threats, and most importantly, my plan to fight back. As I spoke, I could see the tension in the room easing, replaced by determination. This company was built on innovation, integrity, and the hard work of everyone in this room, I concluded. No one is going to take that away from us. Not my brother, not my parents, not anyone. The room erupted in applause. My production manager, Michael, stood up. We're with you, Olivia. All the way. I caught Sarah's eye and nodded. It was time for phase 2 of our plan. Back in my office, I made a call I'd been saving for the right moment. Mr. Palmer, remember our discussion about licensing the new polymer formula? I think I'm ready to talk terms. The morning of the board meeting, I arrived early to find my parents already in the conference room, huddled with Marcus and 2 board members I recognized as Dad's golf buddies. They all looked up when I entered, Marcus's smug smile faltering slightly when he saw Sarah walking in behind me. This is a private meeting, Dad said sharply. Your lawyer isn't needed here. Sarah smiled, setting her briefcase on the table. Actually, as counsel for both Ms. Bennett and Greenpack Industries, my presence is not only appropriate but required given the nature of today's discussion. I took my seat at the head of the table, watching as other board members filed in. Most nodded respectfully in my direction, though a few seemed to avoid eye contact. I knew Dad had been working the phones, calling in favors and making promises. Once everyone was seated, I called the meeting to order. Before Dad could speak, I stood up. Before we begin, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. My parents and brother have orchestrated an attempt to remove me as CEO and transfer control of Greenpack to Marcus Bennett, who has no experience in this industry or any successful business experience whatsoever. Marcus started to protest, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. In the past 48 hours, Marcus has illegally accessed our company communication systems, made false statements to employees about leadership changes, and attempted to intimidate shareholders with lies about my mental state. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One of Dad's allies, Mr. Thompson, cleared his throat. While these accusations are concerning, we're here to discuss the future of Greenpack. Your father has made some compelling arguments about fresh leadership. Fresh leadership? I interrupted, nodding to Sarah, who began distributing folders to each board member. Let's talk about leadership. Inside those folders, you'll find Greenpack's complete financial history under my direction, 5 years of consecutive growth, 3 major patents, and a current valuation of $8 million. I clicked a remote, bringing up a presentation on the wall screen. You'll also find documentation of every business venture Marcus has attempted in the past 5 years. Total losses, approximately $2 million of our parents' money. This is ridiculous, Marcus sputtered, his face reddening. Those were learning experiences. Learning experiences? I pulled up another slide. Like the cryptocurrency scheme that lost investors $500,000? Or perhaps the yacht rental company that mysteriously never owned any yachts. Mom stood up, her voice shrill. We're not here to discuss Marcus's past. We're here to talk about Greenpack's future. Exactly. I switched to the next slide. Let's talk about that future, specifically, the future of our core technology. A hush fell over the room as the implications of my words sank in. Sarah stepped forward, distributing another set of documents. As you can see, she said calmly, the patents for Greenpack's biodegradable polymer technology are held personally by Olivia Bennett, not the company. This includes the new formula that's generated so much industry interest. Dad's face went pale. You can't do this. Those patents belong to Greenpack. Actually, Sarah continued, Ms. Bennett was quite clear in her patent applications. The technology is her intellectual property, licensed to Greenpack under her leadership. A change in leadership would nullify that licensing agreement. The boardroom erupted in murmurs. Mr. Thompson leaned forward, suddenly looking concerned. What exactly are you saying? I met his gaze steadily. I'm saying that if this board votes to remove me as CEO, I'll walk away with the technology that makes this company valuable. And I already have offers from multiple competitors who'd be very interested in licensing it. Marcus jumped up, knocking his chair backward. This is blackmail. You can't threaten the board like this. It's not a threat, I replied calmly. It's business. Isn't that what you wanted to learn about? Dad was gripping the table so hard his knuckles had turned white. Olivia, think about what you're doing. This company is your family's legacy. No, I said firmly. This company is my legacy. I built it while you were busy funding Marcus's failures. I worked 18-hour days while you told everyone I was wasting my time. I turned it into a success while you planned to hand it over to someone who doesn't even understand what we do here. I turned to address the entire board. The choice is simple. Either we continue as we are, with the leadership and innovation that's made us successful, or you can have Marcus, without the technology, without the patents, and without me. The room fell silent. I could see the board members exchanging glances, doing mental calculations. Even Dad's closest allies looked uncertain. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat again. I moved to table any discussion of leadership changes and maintain current management. Seconded, said another board member quickly. The vote was unanimous. As the board members filed out, some stopping to shake my hand, I caught a glimpse of my parents' faces. Mom looked like she'd swallowed something sour. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. And Marcus? He was already on his phone, probably trying to figure out his next scheme. Sarah gathered her things, grinning. That went well. Dinner to celebrate. I shook my head, watching my family leave without a word. Thanks, but I have something else in mind. There's a small tech startup I've been watching. 2 brilliant engineers with a great idea but no funding. Thought I might invest some of my own money, help them avoid the kind of obstacles I faced. She nodded, understanding. Building your own legacy, your own way. Exactly. I smiled, gathering my things. After all, Isn't that what business is all about? 6 months after the board meeting showdown, I sat in my office reviewing the latest financial reports. Greenpack had nearly doubled in value, thanks to our new licensing deal with Palmer Industries and 3 major contracts in Europe. The headline in Business Weekly said it all: Greenpack Industries, the future of sustainable packaging. A knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. Jessica, my assistant, poked her head in. "Your mother's here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment." I sighed, setting down the reports. "Send her in." Mom looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual air of superiority. She hovered in the doorway before taking a seat across from me. "The place looks different," she said, glancing around at the awards and patents displayed on my walls. "More professional." "It's been different for years," I replied. "You just never bothered to visit before." She fiddled with her designer handbag, clearly uncomfortable. "Marcus is getting married to a lovely girl from the country club. Her father owns." "Mom," I cut her off. "Why are you here?" She took a deep breath. "We're having an engagement party next weekend. Your father and I. We'd like you to come." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or a hidden agenda. "Does Marcus know you're here?" "He suggested it, actually." She pulled an envelope from her bag. "After everything that happened, well, he's been different. The therapy seems to be helping." That caught my attention. "Therapy?" "Your father insisted, after the board meeting. Said it was time Marcus dealt with his issues." She managed a small smile. "He's working at your father's firm now. Entry level. No special treatment." I couldn't help but laugh. Dad must have hated that. "He's learning too." She placed the invitation on my desk. "We all are. Sometimes it takes losing something to realize what you had." I picked up the envelope but didn't open it. "And what exactly did you lose, Mom?" "Our daughter," she said quietly. "Our brilliant, determined daughter who built something amazing while we were too blind to see it." The words hung in the air between us. Part of me wanted to dismiss them, to hold on to the anger that had driven me for so long. But another part recognized the cost of that anger. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "The party. But I'm not making any promises." She nodded, standing to leave. At the door, she paused. "That startup you invested in, the 2 engineers? I read about them in the paper. They said you were the only investor who really understood their vision." "Sometimes people just need someone to believe in them," I replied, thinking of all the times I'd wished for that belief from my own family. After she left, I opened my laptop and pulled up the latest update from Trinity Tech, the startup I'd invested in. Their prototype was exceeding expectations, and they'd already attracted interest from major tech companies. But more importantly, they created 3 new jobs, giving opportunities to young engineers who reminded me of myself 5 years ago. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Heard your mom stopped by. You okay?" I wrote back, "Better than okay. Think I finally got what I wanted from them." "The company?" "No, understanding." I looked out my office window at the city skyline, remembering the scared young woman who'd started this company with nothing but determination and $500. She'd been looking for approval in all the wrong places, measuring success by her family's standards instead of her own. The invitation sat unopened on my desk. Maybe I would go to Marcus's engagement party, not to prove anything to them, but to show myself how far I'd come. After all, true success wasn't just about building a company, it was about building yourself. My assistant buzzed again. "The team from the Environmental Initiative is here for the mentorship program meeting." "Send them in," I replied, smiling. It was time to help others build their own dreams, their own way. After all, that's what real leadership was about.